But anything that your purpose to do that is a God idea, not a good idea, but a God idea, it is going to require that it is about more than you.
Yes. Yes. The time is now to boldly step forward, love with intensity, and embark on the journey to create the best version of yourself. Let's breach these barriers together. Hello, family, and welcome back to the BreEvolve Podcast. Thank y'all for coming back to spend time with me. And if you are new, my name is Bree. I'm your host. Here we dive deep into stories of resilience, growth, and becoming our best selves together. We are in this together. You are not alone. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce to you a guest that embodies all of those things and then some. Jon'll Boyd is not just an entrepreneur, she is a powerhouse. From a successful career in marketing and sales to becoming the CEO of the Eventful Life Enterprises, Jon'll has redefined what it means to pivot with a purpose. She's a trailblazer in the event planning world, founder of the Planner Suite, and now with her husband Matthew and their children, co-owner of Boyd Cru Wines, which is the first Black family-owned grass-to-glass winery in Maryland. Her journey alone is a testament to walking by faith and doing the work to fulfill your purpose, even when faced with challenges like the pandemic. Not only is Jon'll an advocate for women building businesses and community, but she's also a visionary, combining wine, art, and culture to bring people together in meaningful ways. And an inspiring story of building legacy with her family. Jon'll has so much insight and wisdom to share. So grab your notebooks and be ready to be inspired. Jon'll shows us how to overcome fear, embrace all that God has for you, and create a life we're called to live. So without any further ado, let's get into this inspiring and empowering conversation with Jon'll. Let's go. Jon'll, thank you so much for being with me today. I truly appreciate your time and your presence.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me, and it's
Absolutely.
always a pleasure to share time and space with you.
Yes, and I just need to say thank you for always being the same genuine, loving person, like on camera, off camera. Thank you for being that person. Like when I was trying to do plan my women's events, you was like, "Well, just give me a call, girl. Let's figure out a time we could call." So I really do appreciate
That's
you.
right. That's right. Well,
Yeah.
that really is who I am through and through. I love to see other people, especially women. I love to see us thrive. I love to see us win
Yeah.
because I just know how much we put our hearts into the things that we do.
Yes. So let's get into it.
All right, let's do it.
Your journey from corporate to entrepreneurship and now winemaking is so inspiring. What habits or mindset shifts helped you to step into your best self through these transitions?
Oh, that's such a good question. I will say it, and it's interesting that you said the key word that I picked up on that you said is what mindset shifts did you have to create or have to have in each transition? And I think that's exactly what I had to have is mindset shifts. I can remember back in 2000, I want to say 18. This was pre-pandemic. I started having an epiphany about how us as entrepreneurs, we put so much focus on get the tools, get the tools, get the tools, but yet we never put any focus on how are we growing as a tool, right? And at that point, I was really talking about how through each shift, in essence, what you're asking me, through each shift in your career, in your life, in your business, that it's going to require a different level of you. And while you might be out here thinking, oh, I just need to make my product better. Oh, I need to make my service better. Oh, I just need to do better on my job. What it really boils down to is what do you think about yourself? What do you believe about yourself? Because everything, even in your career, everything comes back to do you believe that you are worth that? Do you believe that you are the highest creation? Do you believe that you deserve the things that you aspire to do? Do you believe that they are in alignment with the purpose that you are placed on this planet to do? And I think that's where I had to, while I was preaching it, while I was saying it to other people, that's where I also had to make sure that I was living it myself because I had some work to do back then. And I had to really go inward and do that work, do that inner work to make sure that the things that I was saying to other people that I was living in my
Yes.
living it myself, okay?
Listen, I understand that. And you say you had some work to do. I feel like I'm learning that we all have work to do because I
Okay.
thought it was something that was wrong with me. To be honest.
Mm,
Until now, I'm like, oh, wait, y'all were going through it. Y'all were just not saying anything, just like I wasn't saying
mhm.
anything. So I feel like I have this newfound perspective, like it's bigger than me. So, yes,
Exactly,
that I,
and it is.
yes,
It's bigger than it. I always say anything that you are purposed to do that is and you know me, I'm a believer, so, God is gonna always come up and through my language, my conversation, and so, but anything that you're purposed to do that is a God idea, not a good idea, but a God idea, it is going to require that it is about more than you.
yes. Yes, thank you for that. You have been in business for over 15 years. What are some key lessons you would like to share with women that are just starting out their entrepreneurial journey?
Mm, I mean, I don't wanna sound redundant, but I really would say, make sure you prepare yourself while you're preparing your business, right? One of the biggest things that I struggled with, through my entrepreneurial journey, and even really even when I was in corporate America, was validation.
Mm,
I was always looking for people to validate what I was doing. It wasn't enough for me to know that I was doing a good job. I needed my boss to be telling me, you're doing a great job or you're the best, or I needed, other people to validate, is this a good idea? Should I do that?
mm,
And I know that when you are too tied to validation of other people, then you're not really devoted or committed to what the purpose and the mission is. You can't be both, right? There's just no way to do that. And now I live from a place of devotion. Like I'm devoted to the things that I'm called to. And if that is what I'm called to, then it doesn't really matter what other people think. I can remember every single time that I transitioned I had those shifts that would occur in my career or into entrepreneurship. People looked at me crazy. I would have people who would encourage me and would say, I think you're gonna do great. But I also have people who would be like, why are you doing that? Like, why do you want to start a business? When you had this great job, I was the director of sales in my previous corporate position before I got downsized and started my first business. And they were like, "Well, just go back and get another job," or they wanna keep you because they actually did wanna keep me, but they wanted to keep me in my old position. I was like, "I'm not going backwards. What does that say about my value?"
yes, yes.
Right? But people who don't, truly understand how to value themselves can't help you value yourself.
Mhm.
And so they thought I should go back, right? And
Yeah.
I'm like, "No." So, there was always a point of contention whenever I would transition into something, most recently, the wine industry, right? People are like, "You have a flourishing career in the event planning industry. Why in the world would you leave that to go and do wine?" They were like, "That's so weird." But again, at that point, I had done the work, and so it did
Yeah.
not bother me that people didn't understand my purpose because I knew who I was getting my direction from.
Yes. Oh, yes, girl, you speaking to me. And we sometimes zoom in on those, well, I used to at least zoom in on the people that are opposing because we will have a lot of encouragement. But it's like, oh, but we want everybody to say, You got this. You gonna be good.
Right.
But
You want everybody to it's like the kid on the playground that wants everybody on the
yes,
playground to like them, wants to be friends with everybody. And the
yes,
reality is that that's just not life. Everybody is not
exactly,
going to love what you're doing.
exactly,
Everybody is not going to understand what you're doing. And think about it, you don't always understand what other people are doing.
exactly, exactly, exactly. So let's get into Boyd Cru Wines.
Yeah.
Boyd Cru Wines is Maryland's first Black family owned grass to glass winery. What
Yeah.
motivated you all to take on this venture, and how has the experience shaped your family's legacy?
So, what motivated us was number one, I think just really wanting to step out and do something that for a long time we weren't really sure that we could do. I think it's always so, starting a winery has always kind of been in the back of me and Matthew, my husband's, our heads as, gosh, this would be great. This would be grand. This would be something that our family could really build a legacy off of. It would be something that our community could be impacted by. But I think sometimes when things are so big to us, we tend to fall back from them and say, well,
Mm,
I don't even know how little old me would even do that, right?
yep.
And so we make it into this mountainous thing, which not downplaying it. It is a big thing to do. But I think the one thing that we were forgetting is that we weren't doing it by ourselves.
Mm,
We weren't
mhm,
doing this. This was not even when we decided to pull the trigger and said, "Hey, we're gonna move forward and really execute."
yeah.
It was a series of divine things that happened that showed us that this
Mhm,
is the right path. I think sometimes we leave divine intervention, we think it's a lot of hocus pocus and we think it's, not real or whatever the case may be. But I know from life's experiences, especially now, I mean, I'm a big age. I'm 44 years old. So I know from life's experiences when this is aligned, meaning there is somebody at a higher power working on my behalf. Doors are opening that had nothing to do with just my own connections or networking or that I'm a good person. No, there are some things that have happened that we can't explain
mhm,
except for the fact that this is where we are supposed to be
yes,
and this is what we are supposed to be doing at this particular time. And
yes.
when you see things like that happening,
Mhm,
then you have to recognize, you have to know, I say all the time, you have to know when to move.
yes.
When doors open for you or on your behalf, you have to know when to move. And
Yeah.
those who don't move, those who stew and doubt, and that was a part of my doing the inner work. You can't sit there and stew in it and doubt in it and worry about it because as you're doing that, things are moving
Yes.
and you have a window in which those things are moving. And if you don't move, then guess what? Somebody else will.
Yes. And I love you and your husband decided to go into business together. That's also a dream of mine. We keep, like flirting with the idea. But what led you to make that decision, and how do you balance your marriage and business partnership?
Yeah, I think so this is where I think you have to be real because it's like a lot of things like entrepreneurship gets romanticized. I think
Yeah.
going into business with your spouse gets
Mhm.
romanticized. And not to say that it's everybody, but I think for us, it actually did the opposite of what we thought. I think with us going into business together actually has grown us individually.
Oh,
Whereas we thought, oh, this will be easy. We already know each other, we already love each other, all this, yada yada yada. But we also are two very different people. So the way that we operate, the way that we look at things, our view of things, how we approach things is very different. And so much of it has been learning to appreciate our differences of how we view different things that come up in the business, right?
Right.
Neither are wrong, they're just different.
Yes.
And so that has been really key for us. But it's also what makes us a good team, you know?
Yes.
I'm the big pie in the sky, the visionary. I move by faith. He moves by faith, but he also is very analytical, very, does this make sense? Very, how much does this cost?
Yes.
Very, what is the plan here, right? And so I think that both are needed to keep
Mhm.
us balanced as a company and as a business.
I love that, and I will clip this to play over and over once we decide that we're gonna go forward. Because no, that's really good, so thank you. I was asking for myself.
Right, and get you a good therapist.
Listen, already got that set, so I'm glad that's checked off the list. Um, but many people procrastinate, like we were talking about, when their vision feels overwhelming. How did you move? I know with your faith, but what are some steps or some tips that will allow people to move and take actionable steps even when it's this overpowering feeling of doubt?
So number one, it might sound basic, but number one, start with understanding and really digging deep into why are you called to what you're called to, right? And the reason I say that is because a lot of times we get lost in when we don't have that really pared down, when we don't really understand why we're called to something or why we're doing something, then we get out here in this sea of social media and people talking and the noise, and then we
Yep,
forget why we are called to what we're called to. We start
yep,
to take on other people's reasonings and rationales and
yep.
strategies and approaches, thinking that their ways are better. And that's something that I had to learn from my previous business, is that I am set apart for a reason.
Mm,
And I have to that is my baseline. I have to come back to that each and every time. And that's not always easy because you see people moving and shaking or doing things, or you see other people rooting for other people, and so it can very easily, your mindset can get clouded very easily. But I'm very clear on the fact that, in particularly in the wine industry, I am called to do things differently. I don't do things the same way that other wine companies do. We don't just focus on wine. It's so much bigger than just wine. It's about the connection. It's about the community. It's about how we are using wine to change the world, right? And the misconception about how some people view wine. Wine is from the earth. It's biblical. So a lot of times people don't talk about those things because that's not the way wine has been portrayed, how it's been delivered, how it's been sold, right?
right.
But we're called to do something different. And that's one thing I think will help people move beyond being stuck, because a lot of times when we're stuck, it's because we're trying to do things that are not in alignment with the way that we are called to do them. That's why you're
Yes.
stuck.
That's so
It's
good.
not that you don't know what to do, it's you don't want to do it the way that you are being called to do
Right.
it because it's different.
Yep. That's so good. Thank you.
Yes. So that would be my one tip. And then the other thing that I would just say is setting yourself goals, right? And habits and routines. Because what I know is that sometimes we have to let go of habits that no longer serve us. The habits that you had, in 2018 pre-pandemic, probably should not be the same habits that you have now in 2024 post pandemic, right? They may have worked for you then, but we're in a new season. So it's also really important to evaluate the new seasons that you transition into and then understand, well, what do my habits need to look like now based on this season and where I'm trying to go into the next season.
That's good. Talking about the seasons, we kind of feel this attachment, like, we
Mhm.
don't realize that our life are seasons. We're just like the seasons of the earth. So
Yeah.
when we feel this friction, we're trying to hold on and we're like, "No, no, no," but we have to know that it will become something beautiful. And I think that all
Mhm.
goes back to what we were talking about, getting your mind right. It's
Yes.
like all these things that all the questions that I'm asking you, I used to think were separate. Like,
Yeah.
how to get unstuck or how to reach a goal or, how to do certain things, but it really
Right.
starts with your mind.
With your mind. It really does because everything is controlled by how you view it, how you look at it, what you believe, what you don't believe, your values, like all of those things are interconnected, right? And so I'll give you an example, just like I talked about with transitioning into the wine industry. From the outside looking in, I've had people tell me, "Gosh, you transitioned so easily. I looked up and now you're doing wine and it looked like you've been doing it all your life and you're having fun and you're joyful." Yes and no, because what we don't often see is the person doing the internal work to
Yeah.
make that shift.
Mm.
I went through a lot of doubt. I went through a lot of, "I don't know. I don't understand. Why are you asking me to do this? Why is this where I'm being called? What does this have to do with anything?" Because I didn't have the full plan to
Yes.
begin with. I just understood that it was this one piece that was being revealed to me and that I needed to take that one step
Yes.
in order to then understand what the next step was, right? So it's not always that people are out here. I know we say a lot, people, you only see the highlight reels and things like that.
Mhm.
Sometimes people don't really know or have the answers. They're just moving as
Yes.
they are being told or called or led to move. And sometimes that just looks like day by day,
Yeah.
step by step, month by month, season by season,
Yeah.
right? And the joy, and particularly for me, the joy that people see, that is just a part of my natural DNA. I could be tomorrow, I could wake up and, be led. God say, "Hey, you gonna go and start a trash can company." The joy that if that is what I'm being led to do, the joy that I have would still show up,
Yes.
right? So it's not that it's not hard. Some characteristics are just a natural part of who that person is and how they show up in the world.
Yes.
And joy is just how I show up in the world, no matter what I'm doing. Because to
Yeah.
be quite honest, this has been one of the hardest things I've ever had to do.
And I'm so glad you said that because we do, like you said, people do see the end result, not even the end result, see you joyful and
Mhm.
like, okay, maybe she just has something that I don't. You have the doubt, you still have it, but you're moving. So I'm so glad you shared that because they
Yeah,
can feel, okay, I have this, but Janelle, she still moved and she got there. So
exactly,
yes, thank you so
exactly.
much.
It's the joy, I think people confuse joy with ease. And
Yes,
and and I'm like, "No, you can be joyful and still acknowledge that this is difficult."
yes,
Like, I I had to drive a 20-foot truck to go commercial truck to go drive 6 hours round trip to make sure that our sparkling wine would be able to, be released. And that was after seeing it go through harvest, making sure that it was produced right, all
mhm,
of which I've never done before, all of which I'm reaching out and asking people who I know are trusted resources. Could they help? Could they lend me their wisdom? Can they share if I'm doing this correctly? That's nerve wracking. But I take God at his word in
yeah,
everything. You can have joy.
Yes.
All you need to do is follow my lead, and in everything you can have joy. And
Yes.
so I'm like, "Hey, if this what we doing, then this is what we doing,
Yes.
and I'm
2
gonna
things.
enjoy this journey."
Yes, 2 things you just said. You said you were reaching out to people. Community.
Yeah,
This was what held me up because 'cause I'm like, "Imma figure it out myself." Like, God put it on my heart. Imma figure out, read the books, try to do 'em all myself.
yeah,
That hyper independence is not healthy.
yeah.
It's not how God wants us to live.
No,
So He will put people around, but we have to be willing and get over the fear of just
mhm.
asking.
That's right.
You would
That's
be surprised how many people want to help. Like, when I reached out to you, I was so nervous, like, "Oh my gosh," she gonna be like, "Girl, I got stuff to do." All these scenarios in my head,
yes.
in
That's
spiritual
right, we
warfare.
do. We have already processed, given the question and the answer and processed it
Yes,
all before we've even, even asked or made the move towards it or anything.
yeah,
And you're mentioning help, but some people do it on an even grander scale, which causes them not to do anything because they've
yeah,
already identified the pitfall, where everything's going to go wrong, how they're going to fail, how they're going to be mortified, how they'll be embarrassed, how people are going to
yes,
look at them crazy. And none of it has even happened.
yes, and if it does, it's okay because we all go through
Mhm.
it. I had
As
to
well
learn
as
that. I've been
and if
embarrassed,
it does,
and
it's okay.
it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It really is because we think that the fall is the bad part, but honestly, the fall is actually the place where we get strengthened.
Yes,
I can't even tell you how many times just in this journey alone, the things that I thought were going to wipe me out, just
mm,
completely take me up out of here, are
yeah,
actually the things that strengthen my resolve, that made me stronger in my fortitude, that made me more convicted spiritually to
mhm,
know that, girl, if he got you through this, if you made it through this, what exactly are you worried about?
yes.
Okay.
And yes, and that joy you say you have a part of your DNA, I
Mhm.
wanna just clarify that that is from God.
Yeah,
Anyone listening, like, it can be given to all of us because I
yeah,
feel like I have this newfound joy. Even when things are hard, I'm a joyful person, but when things got hard, I'm like, "Ooh," but now I've strengthened my faith, and it's just like,
yes.
"Oh, God said this, so, okay, this
Right.
is here, but I already know what's on the other side."
That's right.
So,
That's
yeah.
right. That's right. And
Yes,
so I all of that connects back to mindset, right?
yes.
Belief, what you truly believe, because a lot of us say we believe things,
Absolutely.
but
Mhm,
then when the rubber hits the road, that belief falls to crumbles.
mhm.
And you gotta really believe that that you have everything you need, and
Yeah,
that as you move, things are going to show up for you.
yes.
And even if they don't, the next that just means I got to a place where I started saying, even if it doesn't, that just means whatever does happen is going to be that much better. There
Mm,
is no, "Oh, it failed, it wasn't for me, it didn't work." No. Either I'm learning
mm.
or I'm winning. So, even
Yes,
in the
yes,
learning,
yes,
there's no losing. It's
yes.
just I'm learning. Like,
Yeah,
"Okay, that didn't happen the way that I thought, but I learned."
absolutely,
Right? That didn't come through how I wanted it to, but I learned. And
absolutely,
there is nothing to me that is greater than learning.
absolutely. Okay, Imma try to wrap this up here. So, you've built you built Boyd Cru Wines as a family, and I know your kids are a part of the journey.
Oh, yeah.
How has employing your children in the business impacted them and the legacy you're building, and what advice would you give to parents who want to also involve their children in their entrepreneurial dreams?
Mm. You know, I look at my kids and I've always said whatever I do in life, I want my kids to know that they can do anything, that they have options, that if you not only work hard, but if you truly believe, again, belief in yourself, if you truly believe, then not even the sky is the limit for you. So that's always been something that has been very, very important to me. Um, I think in doing, in us moving into Boyd Cru Wines and them really seeing us start the business, and start it from the ground up, I think has been so life changing for me because I'm seeing how it impacts them. I'm seeing how they ask questions and are inquisitive and curious about what's going on with the business. Sometimes when I go to do events, wine tastings or markets, farmers markets, they will, especially during the summer, they said, "Well, mommy, we want to come with you," and I'm like, "You want to go?" Because I'm thinking they could care less.
I
They're like,
love
"Yeah, no,
it.
we wanna go, like, we
Yes.
think this would be fun," and then we get out there, and I'll never forget my oldest. We were setting up for a farmer's market, and, he said, "Okay, well, mommy, I'm gonna go and just see who the other vendors are and stuff like that, and then I'll be back." And I said, "Okay, that's fine, son." And lo and behold, he comes back and he has money in his hand. And I said, "Well, where'd you get money from?" I'm like, "Is that money you brought with you? Because you're gonna go and buy something from the vendor?" Because I'm thinking maybe he's gonna go buy some ice cream or something like that. He said, "No, mommy." He's like, as I went around and introduced myself to each vendor to find out about what they were selling, I told them about what we were selling and what Boyd Cru Wines was. And then
Wow.
I asked them if they wanted to buy a bottle of our wine. He was like, and so this is the money that some of them gave me to come over to purchase their wine. And then I told them I would bring it back to them.
Wow.
And it's moments like that that just remind me that, again, this is
Mhm.
so much bigger than just wine. This
Yes.
really is legacy. This really is community. This really is making sure that something lives beyond yourself,
Yes.
right? And so those are some of the moments that just remind me, especially when I'm like, okay, am I doing enough? Or is this enough?
Yes.
Those are moments that remind me that I'm right where I'm supposed to be.
I love that. And to close out, you all have an event coming up, the Freedom of Expression Experience at Shanklin Hall, which sounds incredible.
Yes,
What
yes.
is Yes, the event kicks off your journey to opening the Boyd Cru Wine tasting room in 2025, which I'm super
Whoop,
excited
whoop.
about.
Yes, we're so excited. Again, just another season of our journey that we're about to embark on. We always said when we first started the business that we wanted to start by making our wines, and make sure that we have a hands-on approach to making our wines, which I think is one of the differentiators that people don't always are always aware of, is that we intentionally chose to be hands on in the making, in the process of how our wine is made, because we wanted to be able to speak to our community and our audience knowledgeably about what's in our wine and why we made some of the decisions that we did. But the next step has always been that we wanted to then expand and grow into a tasting room where we can delve even more into community building through wine tasting classes, through hosting events that involve the community, whether it's local, collaborating with local small businesses, local creators and makers, and then also just having an opportunity to build our community even further with our very first wine club, Legacy Founders Wine Club membership. So we're with that, people are able to build their legacy as a part of ours.
Yes, I love that. How can listeners who want to attend the Freedom of Expression experience get involved or register for the event?
Yes, so please go to our website at boydcruwines.com. The Freedom of Expression event actually takes, it's the Wine and Dine event, actually takes place next Wednesday, I believe it is, December 12th, whatever December 12th is. So
Uh-huh.
December 12th, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. But it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. Number one, to try our newly released and newly revealed sparkling wine. It's our first sparkling Vidal Blanc that we have ever made. And what's also special about it is that we had a local artist contest to design the label. And so the winner of the contest, Rashad Ali Muhammad, he will be there at the event as well to introduce himself, talk a little bit about how he created the piece that he designed. And so we're just going to be an evening of celebration, and I'm truly excited to be able to celebrate our local artist community as well.
Oh, I love that. Congratulations to Rashad.
Yeah.
And I hope you all have a beautiful event. I'll make sure I put the links in the description. And how can they keep in contact with you and Boyd Cru Wines and stay up to date on what you all are doing?
Yeah, definitely Boyd Cru Wines everywhere. Like we are Boyd, and that's Cru, CRU. So Boyd Cru, CRU Wines. That's our website. That's our social media pages. That you can stay connected with us and get on our newsletter as well, so that you can find out about information, news as it relates to the opening of the tasting room.
Yes. Well, thank you, Janelle.
Thank you, Bree. This was
And
wonderful.
yes, it really was. I always enjoy your presence. You could just be sitting
Thanks.
there and I could just feel at peace.
I love it. Thank you.
Yes, no problem. Thank you.